Okay, here I am. If you have booked how to start your PIM and MDM initiative, and I say also the right way, then you are at the right place. Very welcome. Thank you for making the time. My name is Dirk Grunewald. I am the CEO of Digital Consulting House. With me are some of my team members, Mr. Samuel Grünbichler, Mr. Christoph Wesselburg, Mr. Sumit Rai. And again, we are happy that you make us the main event of your lunchtime or your evening. Really know that you have other choices or how you can spend your time. And hence, we very much welcome and appreciate you. So, and without further ado, let us jump right away into our agenda for today. So we will discuss, first of all, very quickly who we are and what is product information management. I think most of you know we have a definition, and definitions and terms, or terms and their definitions are also very important when you are starting a product information management journey. And then we will jump into the question of, okay, how do I start? How do I find my product data strategy? And once you have defined that strategy and the components which allow you to identify what you need, then obviously the question is, how do you identify also the right solution, the right PIM MDM solution for your business? And well, where do you get the help from people who have done that maybe a couple of times? And well, I provide a spoiler here already, right? We are amongst them, but actually you should have a good idea of not just what you want to do, how you want to do it, but also who is going to support you if you're not doing that all by yourself. And then also we'll provide you a small overview about what we do, how we can help you, what are our services. But we keep the focus really on the strategy part. And then I assume there will be still questions, and we will provide enough time as well for a roundtable for you to ask any questions you might have. So having said that, let's get into, first of all, the question of who we are, right? I am originally from Germany, mechanical engineer. I started my IT career 28 years ago in Europe, in Germany, and then also in other European countries, mostly in manufacturing, which is very befitting to an engineer. And already at that time, I helped companies going through quality certifications like ISO 9000 or VDA and similar in the automotive business. And that all required data if you wanted to do that the right way. So that was a time where I learned how to apply the right data to industrial processes or in general to business, very much technical, and then going more and more also into business questions and how to make that happen. I worked in several large, big agencies in the e-commerce space, like Publicis or McCann Erickson. In the first decade of my career, mostly for automotive companies, like General Motors or Renault and Nissan. And then at the beginning of the last decade, I joined a company called Heiler, which was already at that point the largest provider of product information management software. I ran the professional services and consulting department in North America, and actually also ran the company in the United States as a chief operating officer until 2013, when Informatica took over that company. So the product they took over with that company is Informatica P360, which is still like a major part also of our service business. 2013, then at that time, I decided I wanted to go my own way. So I started Digital Consulting House LLC, and then later on, a couple of years later, also digital consulting house GmbH in Germany, so which allows us to operate here in the two major markets when it comes to PIM as well. And over time, I picked a couple of excellent partners, excellent people in that space. And that's basically where we are right now. So we are 10 people altogether. And then we have also a couple of partners and consultants who are helping us from Mexico, from India, to provide our services, right? So, and talking about the services, yeah, I have a slide which shows on the right side our 4 major partners here. Apart from myself, there is Mr. Thomas Gottweis, who unfortunately cannot join today. Then Mr. Wesselburg, who is also here, and Mr. Ray, who's our Director of Sales and Marketing. So, but mainly we are experts in the area of PIM, MDM, electronic catalogs, with altogether around 100 years of experience. So again, our scope is advisory. So how do you get started? That's one of the things we do on a regular basis for our companies. We implement PIM and MDM, for instance, Informatica, Stibo, Riversand, InRiver, Akineo, and so on. We also provide services around digital publications, electronic catalogs, so print catalogs based out of InDesign, which are then fed with data out of the PIM. Integrations, point-to-point, event-based, ETL. Also, we do data stewardship and mastering and cleansing and taxonomies and everything. And since a couple of years, we also do applications of artificial intelligence, so and machine learning, for instance, auto classification or writing product descriptions automatically, but there's much more which you can do. And also we train people up on the software products or just on the way how to do PIM, which is less a software but more process. Here's just an overview about some of our customers. This list is not conclusive because we have NDA with some of these companies, so we cannot display their logos here on there. Mostly we are in the area of manufacturing and distribution, but also a couple of larger scale retailers are amongst our customers. So that gets me to the question of what is product information management altogether, right? Most people have in mind immediately a kind of software, right? They would say Stibo or Informatica or Riversand or InRiver, or well, they're around about 100 or more than 100 different solutions out there on the market. Yes, my definition or our definition is looking less at the individual product. So we are not bound to any of these software suppliers. We are really independent. So we are looking more on a meta level, on a business level. And then there's a definition from Techopedia, which I like quite a lot, which just said that's a set of processes, because that's what it really is. A set of process to evaluate, identify, store, and manage and distribute product data or information. Right? Data comes from multiple sources, it's being staged, it's being mastered, it's being classified, enriched, and curated, and then you distribute the data into the various channels, right? And the better this process is, the better are also the outcomes, the impact on your business. Like, for instance, faster time to market, or higher conversion rates, higher revenues, or last but not least, resulting out of this and resulting out of the efficiencies, higher margins. So the use of PIM directly impacts your bottom line on the positive side. And that is what's being also confirmed over and over by companies who use PIM and take advantage of applying the the processes, the techniques, the technology, the right way. Right? So, so how to define that strategy? That is now the question, right? So, and it's really interesting. There are a couple of basics you learn when you are, for instance, studying marketing, which I did because of my time with the agency. So I also took some time at the university to learn a little bit more about it. You would be amazed how many large companies do not really apply the basics, right? So, and with every endeavor you want to start, like for instance, your product data strategy, it's important that you are clear about your goals. And when we're talking about goals, saying, I want better product data, or I want to improve my processes. These are, in our definition, not goals, because they lack a couple of components. And these components are summarized in the term, in the acronym SMART. SMART pretty much stands for specific. So a goal must be specific. A goal must be measurable. A goal must be also achievable. It must be realistic or in the realm of what you are doing. And it needs to be timely as well, right? So if you would say, I want within the next 6 months that 20% of my top sellers have complete product information, right? And let's assume that these are around about 10,000 products, and you have the team in place, and you know you have the resources you need to do that, then that is a SMART goal. That is specific, measurable. Well, you can say how many products are completed. It's achievable, and it's also in your realm, right? If you would say, I want to go to Mars, I want to land on Mars in 6 months, and you are selling T-shirts, right? That's probably then not a realistic or a real goal, right? So and a lot of companies don't do that. And I find in my practice that companies in the middle of an implementation or have already implemented PIM and have lots of issues. And then I ask them, okay, what are your goals? What is your strategy? And they haven't defined it, right? So hence I want to help you, and we want to help you to avoid some of the problems some others and some of the big household names even experience. So this is how we take the journey, or how we help you to take the journey, to get to your strategy, that what we recommend to do that. So as I already said, it starts with your SMART goals, but it doesn't end there, right? And another very important thing is often skipped, and I'm right now in a project where this has become a big issue, right? It's the alignment on the terms you are using, right? What is the product? What means data cleansing? What is even good data, right? So these terms, and also the definitions of these terms, and where are all my channels and what are they, and all of this, right? This needs to be defined first. If you don't have a definition, then people will spend hours and hours and hours in meetings, and they will not be able to communicate with each other, because these terms are loosely used. So like, for instance, just product or item, right? And exchangeable, and everyone has a different understanding of them, right? So that is very, very important that all is clear, right? Then we use what I call an as-is assessment, or a general assessment of where you are in terms of PIM, based on 4+1 dimensions. I will come to what these dimensions are, but also a very important point that you look into where you stand in terms of your organization, or your processes, and your people and the tools. Because if you don't do that, then also you might miss something out. And last but not least, when you have that complete understanding, also you know where your strengths and weaknesses are, where your pain points are, where you want to start first. Then you can convert your higher level SMART goals into a goal model. in different levels and in increasing depth of understanding, right? Which allows you also then to define, okay, what are my to-be processes, what are the capabilities I need, and to build a high-level roadmap about it, right? And if you have that, then based on this, because of that, you have that understanding, you will be able to write use cases and requirements, allowing you to go for the next steps, right? But if you are skipping one or more of these steps, it's very likely that you run into problems, right? So if, and again, in most situations where I come and there are problems, it's because step 1 and 2 were skipped already, right? And then not so much good can come out of it. Just some examples which I would like to provide here. So this is, for instance, an example of a definition. So this is a definition of what good product data is and what you need to have, like descriptions, images, keywords, references, technical specs, additional assets, logistical data, right? It's a good idea to write that all down and to understand also where the data is coming from and where it has to go, right? If you have that understanding, then your implementation later on will run much smoother, right? And good data, good data is everything. Shit in, shit out, as I said. Having good data means you have increased website visits, you have increased consideration, you have better sales, increased sales. This is all coming automatically out of it. Again, having good data, right? Another part, as I said, of our assessment are the 4+1 dimensions. So, and here again, it's very simple. Every endeavor in life, if you want to organize a wedding or if you want to implement PIM, always needs these ingredients, right? You need to have the people, right? They need to know what they are doing. You need to have a process or a plan for it. How do you get there? And you need the right tools, right? If one of these ingredients is missing or more of them are missing, then you run into problems. And there is another big ingredient, and that's culture. That's actually the will of the organization also to drive these initiatives forward. So everyone is aligned and everyone wants that. In many cases, you see that maybe some team members sabotage it for various reasons, or not all the leadership is aligned, right? And if the C level and the V level, the executive sponsors, do not stand behind your initiative, for instance, improving the quality of data, then you have problems. So culture, the culture of the organization, the culture of collaboration is also important, and that culture can only come from the top. So there are certain aspects. Let's assume you are on the middle management layer, which is typical for people who are implementing PIM, right? There are certain aspects you simply do not control, right? It's important to be aware of that, and then maybe focus on what you can control and maybe use other levers and influence to overcome the unavoidable issues which are derived from initiatives which span multiple departments of the organization. And a PIM project is likely to span everything, right? So from purchasing over research and development, over the different sales and marketing activities, IT and so on. All of this is impacted. So you need the people on your side, and that's actually the most difficult task when you are in this business. And I think a couple of you, or maybe all of you, can relate to that. Then, well, the other part, which is typically then the end of the strategy development, or a very important milestone, is you get to a goal model where an overarching vision is then broken down into SMART goals. And under these SMART goals, you define the strategies, the activities, or larger scale activities, maybe little projects, which help you to achieve these objectives or goals, right? And then there are some critical success factors like the IT support or a certain system being provided or whatever there might be in the organization driving this, right? Knowing this, knowing what you need to do and maybe ideally by when, which is the T aspect of the SMART, helps you to define a roadmap. And maybe even you go into like tools like MS Project or Smartsheet and have already some kind of a high-level Gantt chart. Right? So you don't know at that point typically which tool you are going to use, right? You don't know who is doing that, so that is still subject to modification. But at least already you have an idea what you want to achieve. And you have a good idea what is wrong with your current processes, what kind of data you have, where the data is coming from, where is it going, right? And what specific requirements you have. There can be also non-functional requirements, like, for instance, security or response times or like enterprise capabilities, which are not necessarily directly PIM function, but which then also require that a specific kind of software is being used, right? So for instance, if you have software as a service strategy, then all the on-prem solutions are automatically ruled out and vice versa as well. But most people in our days are going into software as a service or cloud, right? So, and apart from that, now you are at the point to say, okay, which software? If I don't have a software yet, PIM software, it's on the tools section of these 4 dimensions. Well, how do I identify it? If I have done my work right before, it's actually not that difficult anymore. Again, I try to use simple techniques. Well, it's also coming from our claim. We are here to make the complex simple, and I'm a great proponent of using simple things when you are in situations with many people, different and variables which you don't control. Then you want to have simple and robust solutions, not anything too complex or sophisticated no one understands, right? So what do we typically do? It's, again, almost easy peasy, right? You start with your process map, you start with your use cases and your requirements, and you just write them down, right? You write them down, you assign them maybe to a data domain if you are looking not just at product MDM, but maybe at customer and supplier. You classify these capabilities as well, right? And then these capabilities and use cases, once you have that list, right, you just weigh and prioritize them, right? You maybe say, this is very important. This is okay. This is good to have. This is nice to have, or maybe we don't need that much, but would be nice to have it. So you can rank it high, medium, low, or very important, okay, not so important, or well, totally unimportant, right? And these weightings, you provide them just a number, right? Could be, for instance, 5, 3, 1, or 10, 7, 5, 3, 1, something like that, right? Once you have that, you have a basis on which you can grade your suppliers or potential solutions. So typically it starts with a long list. Let's assume you say, okay, these 6 or 7 solutions are in the relevant set. You do research. You find out what are the strong, what are the weak points. How is that relevant for your requirements? And you maybe invite these folks to present a first time, right? And based on that, you can already start with the first rating, a first grading, right? So which gets you, if you multiply a grade, so you could actually use something like a degree of fulfillment of that requirement, right? Fully 100% is a 10. And not at all is a 0, and everything in between, right? And then you just multiply that with your weighting, and that gets you for each of these requirements. I show that here in the deck. That gets you to a score, right? And then you just sum up the score, and that gets you to a number, and that number is the business value or the value rating of that specific solution, right? So you could go a first round, which already eliminates maybe 3 or 4 of them. Then you have another round where these companies are demoing, where you assign a committee, right, where people put their grades in, and then you do a weighted average, something like that, right? And at the end of the day, after 2 or 3 rounds, you have either 1 winner or maybe 2 who go to a final challenge, and at the end there is 1 winner, right? But it's all based on what the requirements are and what the weighting is. It's not 100% objective. It's not that scientific, but it's somewhat still the most objective possible in such a business scenario. It's also turned out to be a very practical way of getting finally to a winner, which you have a good chance that they will win. And through this process, also the vendor who is finally winning also has a good understanding already of your requirements, right? Which then allow them probably to be a little bit faster and the whole thing to go a little bit smoother, right? So that the time you spend in advance will pay out later down the road, right? So, and yeah, then that gets me to the last point of that journey. Where will you find the right help? Obviously, there's a simple way, I say, and there's a less convenient way, but way more likely to succeed, right? All of you probably know the saying, right? You can't get fired for hiring ... I'm not saying who that is. But as a matter of fact, these big 4, right? The big consultancies, they all offer PIM and MDM. The problem is that you really don't know which kind of expertise is behind there. After you peel through all the layers and of strategy presentations and everyone is claiming they know the subject, right? So the other way are maybe big recruiting agencies who also get you individual, if you're looking for individual experts as well, right? There's another problem with these. Someone like me, I started small, and we are still, I would say, a smaller business, even if we have become already a little bit larger. What people like us really do not like, that there is here a man in the middle who claims like 20-30% of the overall revenue, and sometimes also the terms and conditions are not the best, also for the customer actually. So you pay for the convenience with possible problems later down the road. Does not always happen, or it doesn't have to happen. But again, the simple way sometimes has some downsides. Less convenient and more likely to succeed, right? Find yourself the expertise fitting to you, right? There's a good number. It's not an infinite number. There are only a few really worth their money, but there are some individual data specialists out there. You will find most of them in the US, in Germany, or in the so-called DACH region, also in the Netherlands and in Scandinavia. And also in India, you find a lot in between, also in India. Or you go with boutique system integrators who are only doing this, PIM and MDM, right? Folks like us, right? A little advertising, yes. But there are others around as well, right? So, but that requires a little bit more research, but they are findable. And that's basically it. From a strategy perspective, again, we are helping you, or we can help you if you want. If you're at the beginning of your PIM journey, or if you are in the middle of it, if you have already implemented, we have seen it all, right? So we help you with like process assessment, strategy development, selecting the right tool as well. So we do that, and we have done it, right? Any kind of enablement and training around strategy, data strategy, right? Data governance, right? It's also important to have a data governance in place. So that's on the organization side of these 4 dimensions. Then we do, of course, we do the implementations, right? So with tools like Informatica, like Stibo, but also ETL tools, Informatica counts among them, or Talent or others, right? Kafka, import, export, integrations, API. We have a very good or deep technical expertise also on our end. And we are also managing these projects end to end, several certified PMPs in our ranks too. So you can put a project into our hands and we will help you execute it in all aspects. We also do, and we have also the expertise on our end here, actually being present as well. We do electronic catalogs. So you have your industry catalog or your more magazine-like catalog, which is fed by product data, by descriptions, by assets, right? And you do it in InDesign. So this information can be pulled into InDesign via templates so that you can automate your whole process. And that's something we do as well from start to finish. Also, as I said, integrations. BME CAD is not a foreign language for us. HubDis, EDI, GS1, eTIM, eClass, the whole event-based communication, enterprise service bus, RESTful integrations. Again, we have seen and done it all over the last more than 10 years. And last but not least, or almost, we also do, we help you with your data stewardship. So once you have your system in place and start to manage the data, then you figure out typically that the data is not what you hoped it to be, right? And then that is where we also can help you to cleanse the information, to help you to structure it, to classify it, and get good data into the system, right? Which cannot be achieved by just having a PIM system alone, right? And then, as I said, in our days, there's artificial intelligence and machine learning. We have also this expertise in our ranks, like classify a product out of a picture, or write the right descriptions, or using the attributes to put product into the right category in your shop system, and so on. Yeah. So and then we also do trainings. We have our specific NLP-based, neuro-linguistic programming-based training methodology. So as you see here, it looks a little bit different what you would usually expect from IT trainings, but it's highly effective and focus on that things stay in the minds of the trainees, right? So how do you start with us? So if any one of you wants to have an initial conversation, we do an assessment. It takes around about 15 to 30 minutes. See what kind of problems, what kind of situation you are in, where you are in the PIM journey, what kind of challenges you have, where we can help you, right? And if we decide together it makes sense to further evaluate, we offer a free 4-hour workshop, which can be either on site or remote, where we are doing this as is to be assessment. That's what we have outlined here in the presentation. And based on that, you are going to get a proposal if you still have interest. Either at the beginning, we have typically a blueprint and discovery phase type material. And then we can also offer fixed prices. And because we also have people in Mexico and India from a Western perspective, from a US and German perspective, we can be also very effective, cost effective as well, right? So, and this is just the slide showing, well, how does our discovery workshop work? So we start with introductions and expectations. We align on the terms and definitions, as is assessment, 4+1 dimensions, and then the SMART goal model, right? So we actually walk also the talk. And that gets me to the last point, and that's our roundtable. So you can now ask questions. But thank you very much for staying that long and for your attention as well. So anyone having questions, just write the question into your chat. I think that's the most effective way, but you can also unmute yourself and just speak. Okay. Everyone being shy. Someone has a question, I believe. Steve Zerio, can you share examples of success? Print catalogs, but any website or other. So now the interesting question is, what is the definition of success? Steve, can you elaborate a little bit what exactly you want to look at? Because you mentioned print catalogs and websites, and what are you looking for exactly when it comes to success?
Well, you did a nice job of showing how complex this process is. I appreciate that. But the output is generally, as a consultant, you like to show, okay, here's where the project started and here's what we delivered. So I saw one screen that had a print catalog, looked like it had a small picture, perhaps multiple columns of pricing or quantities. It was hard to tell just based on what was presented on the screen. But what other outputs has your firm helped provide?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the presentation, the main point of doing all these things here is to get to good data. Because if you don't have good data, success is impossible. That counts for print catalogs, that counts for websites, right? And to have good data requires that you have a good governance. You have a governance which actually work. You need to have a process in place. You need to have a understanding of where your data is coming from, where it's going. So all of this needs to be laid out, right? Once this is the case, then you are getting actually to a point where success on your websites or on other output channels becomes even possible. In terms of individual companies or individual examples, we had other webinars in which we were showing them. Here, I really wanted to focus on how you get started and how important that is. I can give you one example. Electrical supplier, right? They had PIM implemented, but the problem they had was they couldn't show any of the in their search on their website any of the facets properly, right? So the facets which allow you to filter down, and what they offered was like 10,000 of different products, all of the same kind. So and the issue was that they couldn't do that because their taxonomy was not properly defined, right? And hence all the value lists and the attributes and everything was also not properly defined. And that was the case because they had product managers who didn't really like to contribute too much to the process, right? So that a cultural issue, which then was the reason why data didn't display well on their website, right? So and here we were able to over time. It took a while. It took a couple of months, or it took even a year to get to the point that we had a governance established, that we had a process established, that we had executive support established, which allowed us then to run this process of properly classifying the data, aligning it with the right attributes, filling the right attributes so that you could have facets on the website display. So, so as you said, Steve, this is complex, and the solution is not always a technical one. Does that answer the question?
Not fully, but it does support that it's a complex process. I mean, I realize that I've had companies where we had multiple catalogs with 8,000 to 10,000 SKUs. And, you know, there's a lot of work. And again, your points are right with the data. But, okay, I appreciate the response. Thank you.
Very well. You're absolutely welcome. I have another question. What are the most common mistakes in implementation flow? So yeah, I already mentioned a couple, but I will elaborate on them. Not having a clear understanding what you want to achieve and by when you want to achieve it. Defining your goals, defining your expectations, the expectations you have properly. You find that a lot. Lack of support. I see projects which are started, and it's a great initiative. They are started by the IT department, but there is not enough involvement, or sometimes no involvement of the business at all. And then when you are starting with UAT, you see gaps, right? Or another one is that you just underestimate how important it is. Same way, like in general with PIM, that you need a proper enterprise taxonomy. There are companies who start a PIM project, but they have their enterprise taxonomy. That means the classification, which defines what a product is. So example, apparel, ladies, skirts, right? Just an example. And then you have certain attributes like size, material, color, and so on, right? That's very simplistic. This can be much more complex. So, and then you want to start your PIM journey, and then again, the data doesn't come out right, in spite of the fact that you selected a great product, maybe something like Informatica, Stibo in River, like one of these big products, but it still doesn't bear the results you expected. I hope that answers the question. And then I have one, what is easier? Transition from one to another PIM MDM, or start from scratch? To be honest, the latter, right? If you have clean slate, it's much easier as if you have already established processes in place, which might not be in the place where you wanted them to see, and transitioning data over from an already existing implementation. Well, to a certain degree, it's simpler, but personally, I would say it's easier to just start clean state from scratch. But at the end of the day, in most cases, there is already something in place, even if it's not called a PIM system, but people do PIM if they need to publish something, right? So you might even just have an Access database or spreadsheet. Okay. I'm waiting for more questions. But if there are not more questions, then I really would like to thank you again for attending this session, for staying here with us, and for making the time for us. Thank you very much.